All right, 2, 1. Woo! All right, we can finally start. But even though you guys have been here for like 15 minutes, it feels like already. So you must be really excited about this session. But if you've already been using Kiro, I don't know how much of this is necessarily going to be net new information because, well, if you're a practitioner and you're playing with it daily, you're going to get a lot of information already. Also, I bought these shoes today, and if I fall, I want my CSAT scores to be like super high, okay? I need the sympathy vote. Whoa. All right, so my name is Rory Richardson. I am joined by Vidhir from Delta Airlines and Sam, who's a solution architect focused on Kiro. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about like the preface of how we got here in the evolution of agentic AI. Then we're going to talk about the importance of spec-driven development in relationship to vibe coding. We're going to do a quick introduction to Kiro, and then we're going to get some real-world tactical experience by talking about how Delta Airlines has been incorporating Kiro into their software development lifecycle and eventually their AI development lifecycle. And then lastly, we're going to wrap up with a demo. The demo is coming in pretty hot. As you know, we've made a lot of announcements yesterday morning in Garmin's keynote. Did y'all see Garmin's keynote? Raise your hand. Yeah? Was it good? Yeah. One of my favorite parts is the autonomous agents that we're introducing because it greatly expands the context and the ability of combining multiple agents together in order to do more and more complex tests. It's a very foundational concept that I think is going to continue to grow over the next 6 months, year. I think more and more folks are going to do more and more complex things with the agents themselves and combining them for the autonomous agents to be able to orchestrate, monitor, and even verify the work of other agents to build them together. So let's talk a little bit about the agentic mindset because there are a few things that we've learned. Like, probably the last 2 years or 18 months, when I would talk with a lot of customers, usually they would come with an idea or a business problem that they wanted to solve. But unfortunately, a lot of folks started with like really, really hard problems and things that were customer facing and things that were about the core competency of the business. Like, great, we're gonna get AI to do the very thing that we sell to our customers. The problem is that's taking on the most risk, right? And especially if you haven't done one before, why take on the most amount of risk? Instead, the companies that we've seen to be the most agentic in nature are starting with the muck. I was talking to this business consultant a year and a half ago from Boston Consulting Group. And he said, Rory, generative AI is fabulous. It can make music. The problem is nobody wants it to. What they want is for it to go do the dishes so that you can go off and make music. So where we're seeing the most exponential value out of the application of generative AI and agentic AI is removing toil and muck to free humans up to be human. Now, it means a lot of developers are like, oh my God, AI is coming for my job. How many thinks AI is coming for your job? Raise your hands. Right? Yes, you. Gartner said it best when they said that AI is probably not coming for your developers, but a developer using AI is probably coming for a developer that is not using AI. And I think that's kind of a true thing because a lot of agents I kind of view as various ages of children, right? You know, they have really great ideas like, oh, let me tell you, let me help you, let me help you, let me help you. And it's like, no, I don't trust you to touch the dishes. You're too young. So how we are dealing with the agents depends on the level of sophistication, how much we trust the information that we're getting back from them before we incorporate it into what we're doing. Because you're not going to fire AI, but I will fire a developer if they, write bad code or malicious code or introduce risk into the application. Yeah, these are all things. The humans are still responsible, y'all. This is super important. But can a developer be augmented? I mean, think about all the muck that you do in your software development lifecycle, right? Who loves Jira? Raise your hand. Yeah? Jira. But being able to search through Jira, automate Jira tickets, and being able to optimize that experiment will give everybody else here a better day, because it's not, when you're messing with Jira, you're not creating that new application. Because when you first started being a developer, you wanted to make cool stuff, right? So everything that is not helping you make cool stuff, muck. So, quick history lesson. I know you're all on this journey with us, but we started off with plugins into the existing IDEs, VS Code, JetBrains, IntelliJ, and that seemed like a really great idea. And then we got this idea, like, wouldn't it be cool if we made agents that go off and do bespoke tasks within the software development lifecycle, like /review or /doc. This was great, except we were teaching a bunch of people how to work with agents and not teaching the agents to work with the people. How many of you have a smartphone, like an iPhone or something? Yeah. And do you remember that you were told specifically you had to use that device, how to optimize it, and then you had to take an enablement session to fully use it? Of course not. It's just, you just get started, and you get to choose whatever device that you want. That's the developer experience, right? So instead of teaching developers or anyone how to interact with the technology, we should have the opposite approach. And one of the ways we're able to do that is to have an agentic AI approach to software development. So now, instead of having just plugins into the IDE, we've seen the rise of agentic IDEs. And this was great. Vibe coding's cool, right? You just get started. How many's had to debug one of your colleagues' vibe coding projects? Yeah, super fun, right? But it's also kind of an anti-pattern. First of all, the democratization of people being able to create something just through natural language was the dream of low-code, no-code. It's always been the dream. Like, can I just prototype this? How do I just get started? It was great. But then how do I work with other developers to do more and more complex things? And that's combining spec-driven development with vibe coding to accelerate. How are you getting something, from prototype into production? The other change that we've seen this year is the rise of protocols for agent-to-agent communication. How many of you people are using MCP servers? Right? Wasn't that way last year. This is a radical change in how we're thinking about the very architecture of agents themselves. So earlier this year, I was like, well, what is the definition of an agent? Because if you look on the internet, no one could agree. Like you get 3 people together, they would have all different definitions of what an agent was. So we're going to go with my definition because I'm the one with the mic. I started out with, well, it has to be able to perform tasks asynchronously. It has to go off and come back. It has to have some degree of autonomy. It has to have agency, and I mean that in a very Pride and Prejudice sense, right? It has to be able to make some decisions on its own. But this last idea of adding the word atomic is fairly new and the most controversial. And yeah, they all start with A. I did that. Atomic is meaning that you're able to make more bespoke agents and then combine these bespoke smaller agents in different ways to do more and more complex things. So instead of using a really, really large model that has been trained on a really, really large data set, what if you could do something that was more bespoke? So instead of being good at everything, what if you could be great at a few things? The idea of making atomic agents kind of brings me back to my microservices days, and the idea that you can combine microservices together to do more and more complex applications and also reuse those agents. This was sort of the foundational concept behind what we're trying to do with autonomous agents. Being able to use the right agent for the job, but not necessarily having to teach you which agent that is and when to call it. These autonomous agents have the ability to help make those decisions for you. Now, this kind of I love a lot of sci-fi. I'm a huge sci-fi fan. And it feels almost like what we really want is Jarvis, right? Now, don't go full Ultron, right? But in Iron Man 1, Jarvis was a natural language interface for IoT devices in Tony's house. By the time you get to Iron Man 3, Tony is able to go to the holodeck and go directly into the most humanistic areas of innovation. He's able to just start to vibe code the next Iron Man suit. And then when he's done, he's able to look over at Jarvis and said, all right, now go off and build the Iron Legion, because Jarvis is handling all the supply chain management of all of the resources in the house, managing all the design specs, managing search within the libraries of Tony's work. I mean, can you imagine what the world is going to be like when your kids have access to that level of assistance for anything that they want to make? That's the world that we're living in. I mean, I have a 15-year-old, and I've been trying to teach this kid to code since he was 4. I can't get those 10 years back, because what is the role of Python by the time that kid hits the job market? I mean, the syntax is kind of taken care of. I'm not saying computer science is dead by any stretch of the imagination, but the world has dramatically changed for how our children are going to interface with solutions and innovation. And it's not about agents per se. It's about how fast and how hard can they dream, because they're going to be able to create it with the assistance of these tools. So we created an agentic IDE like Kiro that married the idea of vibe coding with traditional spec-driven development. This also changed a lot of the roles within our 2 pizza teams at AWS. It's been highly disruptive, because now we move much faster when we embed our PMs into those teams, because we're able to iterate on the specs much, much faster. So engineering reaches a problem, they were like, hey, this isn't going to work. PM takes it and goes, yep, let's rewrite the direction of what we're going. And that entire process it takes a matter of hours and not weeks. This level of speed has created other problems, because the number of code commits that we're able to do, test wasn't ready for. QA wasn't ready for. There's downstream impacts to the speed that we're able to get things done now. So having an AI IDE has greatly accelerated, well, everything that we touch at AWS, and at Amazon. You can view Amazon as like our first, best, worst customer, because they know where we sit. And they come and they give us direct feedback. And we have to compete for their developer time as well, in order to figure out like what is the tools that we should be creating internally. And so that's our own internal test bed in order to refine like some of our thinking and what we decided to build. Also, we found tremendous uptick of the command line interface. The command line interface, we found a lot of people were using it or weren't necessarily having an IDE already installed on their computer. That means this is a different type of user that is using the command line interface to do different tasks, but also these tasks are associated with the software development lifecycle. So we incorporated the command line interface also into Kiro, and so now Kiro is also available in the terminal. This evolution of agentic AI has changed everything about what we're doing. And it continues to accelerate exactly how we're creating software, not only from just a traditional application development, but also how we're creating the agents themselves. Now, I got my roots in microservices and breaking up monolithic architectures into microservices. I've been talking with customers lately that aren't doing that anymore, because that's so 2022. Now they're thinking about breaking up monoliths into true agentic architecture and bypassing that step. So the foundation of these applications are agentic. And so the process of creating agents has fundamentally changed and accelerated. You'll hear a lot about the tools that we are developing to enable that, whether it's a framework like Strands SDK or an agentic platform like Agent Core that gives you the building blocks for runtime and memory, but also choosing the right inference for your job. But the thing that I think is the most interesting is data. Because now if you're able to create an agent that is directly responsible for your data, the responses that you're going to get are more bespoke to your environment. So the ability to create these agents in combination with the full tool chain, well, I'm really excited to see what's next and what people are going to create. I've been working really closely with Delta because Delta has a mindset that is agentic architecture in nature. When they started sharing some of their architecture diagrams, I was super impressed with how they were thinking about those autonomous agents, and what do you call them, nano agents or sub-agents? Sub-agents. And that made me feel really old, because in my architecture diagram, there was a load balancer, there was EC2, and theirs is different. So they're trying to push the envelope of what's possible in the safest possible way that scales within an enterprise organization. So with that, I'd like to invite Vidhir to talk about their experience and how they've applied it directly to Delta Airlines. Come on up. You are not going to catch me. I swear, we're not going to trust fall. I'm going to be fine.
I'm
going to be Jennifer
Lawrence.
Lawrence.
My word. I'm here to catch you.
No, it's going to be fine. No.
Okay, cool. Before I begin, how many of you flew on Delta to reach here, this amazing conference? That's good. Thank you for your business, genuinely. And for those who use the free Wi-Fi in our flights to finish the last-minute work or prepare slides like me, you are welcome. Delta is the first airline in US that introduced free Wi-Fi across our flights. We are the pioneers of innovation and technology in the entire airline industry, 100 years of legacy and history that we created. Now, decisions like this are made behind a philosophy which I would like to share with you all, is we'd like to create experience for our customers, the best experience possible for our customers, and make it as the new standard and execute it every day. And that is the philosophy that we follow in every domain and every group in Delta, even in developer experience, which we lead and serve for our Delta developers. We follow the same philosophy. We would like to provide the best tools and technology for our developers so that we can reduce their friction and improve their innovation every day. Rory shared great vision on the agentic roadmap that AWS is getting into. And it aligns very much with our vision and the roadmap that we are planning as well. How many of you had seen slides like this and started preparing mental mapping of how to adjust my roadmap, which things I need to prioritize and deprioritize? I'll raise my both hands. Because every tech conference that I visited, every exec we reached out to, whenever they shared something, immediately we started mapping how to adjust, which changes we need to make. But here is what we learned, that we can achieve this autonomy, agentic architecture by building on trust, the trust from our developer community. With the rollout of QDeveloper on the left-hand side, the coding assistance, QDeveloper is fully adopted in entire Delta. Almost every developer uses QDeveloper, and they are giving great feedback. It laid that foundation. In the middle, what we have, Kiro IDE, the agentic IDE, which we are scaling now across the Delta enterprise. And we are marching towards the autonomous agentic systems, which are going to be integrated into our developer workflows. And with the help of QDeveloper so far, what we gained was we were able to capture the major wins that QDeveloper provided, and also helped us to understand what are the areas of improvement, what are the automations that we can build for our developers. So to increase this adoption and get to the stage that we want, we created a model, right? One thing that we didn't try was we didn't try to convince all of our thousands of developers in one session or at a go. right? It is not possible. At the same time, we are not staffed up to reach out and talk to each and every developer. So what we did was, with the support of our leadership, we reached out to all of our domain leaders and asked them, nominate some of the champions who are technically and technologically very sound and very trustworthy, and they can influence the developer community without any title and authority, right, with the trust. So with the help of these dev champions, we are able to scale this model. We went domain by domain. We trained each domain, and also we built the trainer model. Because these days, everyone knows AI, right? When Rory was sharing that the technology, Jarvis-like technology, how it's going to help for children in future, that immediately reminded me a personal experience at my home as well. A few weeks back, I have a 7-year-old daughter. So I asked her, just casually, 2 simple math problems, multiplications. I gave her, try these out. So she took, okay, I'll try. 5 minutes back, she came back and asked, can I use ChatGPT? I'm not making this up. It really happened. I was really shocked. I was like, I'm really surprised. Where did you heard about ChatGPT? I was expecting maybe you're going to ask me, can I use calculator to do this? And she was like, what is a calculator? See, the AI advancements are happening very fast that everyone knows how to use AI, how to adopt them. But the most important thing is inputs to this AI, the inference that we're going to provide to this AI. Because everyone knows, like I said, everything, AI is an amplifier. So the more structured prompts, the more context we provide, the more guardrails we introduce, we're going to get the best output that everyone is looking for. At the same time, if we have chaos, it's going to amplify that chaos. So that's why we focused a lot on setting those inputs right, getting our community ready so that we can scale this model. Now, these dev champions, this is not their primary job. They have their day jobs. They need to work in their sprints and scrum models. So when we reached out and formed this community, we wanted to clearly set the expectations because we want to approach this outcome-based, right? So we clearly said that this is what we expect from you. We want you to participate in the initial session so that you can learn how to train your teams. We need you to participate in our office hours so that you can help others and also listen to their questions. And we need you to contribute your prompts, any prompts that you worked. And we need you to bring along your entire team, not just developers, your product owners, scrum masters, how to use QDeveloper. They helped us to reach almost every developer in entire Delta IT, which is the best part that any email campaign or marketing campaign could do, because nobody reads emails. That's the fact, right? So using the dev champions, we were able to establish that community and able to scale this model and increase the QDeveloper adoption. But we started seeing that developers are writing code. We started seeing that we're writing more code much faster. But still, we're not able to see the result. What is the end result? What is the outcome that is aligning with our business expectations? So this is the pivotal moment, which is the very important part. The feedback that we got from our developers is, it is very important to understand that moving from help me write this function to help me build this feature, we need AI that understands the business context, our governance, our compliance rules, our integrations. It needs to understand all of those. Then only we can get to the stage of delivering the feature level output. That is when Kiro entered into our story. So we partnered with our AWS team, and we are one of the early pilot users of Kiro. We introduced it to our Again, our same champions community and also some power users of QDeveloper. And we asked them, go ahead and use Kiro and start giving us your feedback. Because we already built the trust, right? When we rolled out the QDeveloper, we started to gain their trust. And they started giving us responding feedback in the form of feedback. 4 main themes that evolved from their feedback. They clearly said that using Kiro versus any other tool, we're able to see that it can understand our complex code base, our business rules, our existing logic, and extract it and build the context that it is expecting. At the same time, they clearly said that it was able to break down the given requirement into easily implemented design and executable tasks. And most important thing, we started seeing that Kiro, with the help of Kiro, we are able to build production-ready code. I want to underline that, production-ready code. No 2 enterprises will have the same set of governance and compliance rules to build their products. So it is very important, a tool to understand, establish the context, and adjust and deliver the code that is production-ready and ready to deploy into the higher environments, which we are able to see using Kiro. We also heard feedback from our architects and some of the developers that they were able to use Kiro to be a critic in their architecture decisions. Some of them use that as a soundboard to validate that, is my design and approach, is it correct or not? That is the most exciting part. So we started seeing that Kiro becoming one of the team member who has this beautiful memory of memorizing the 1,000 lines of code, establishing the context, at the same time giving you advices and suggestions which direction you need to go for your next product and next implementation. That is the most exciting part we started seeing and we started realizing with the help of Kiro. And the spec-driven development is the most unique and innovative feature that we came across in Kiro. Simple, it's not that complex. 3 simple steps. Step 1, lock your requirements. You give your detailed requirements. Step 2, Kiro automatically breaks down your requirements and start building the design, generating the design. And step 3, it will also give you the tasks, giving power to the developers. That is the most important part, human in the loop. Ultimately, developers has the power whether they accept the design or they're going to execute those tasks or they're going to refine or alter any direction that Kiro needs to implement those. So we started seeing that level of flexibility and at the same time context awareness. And the most important part, the backlog grooming. How many of you are familiar with this? I see a lot of nods. Everyone, right? Backlog grooming. Several hours of backlog grooming. A lot of debates about story points, definition of done, acceptance criteria, and a lot of feelings get hurt, and so much drama, right? So what we started to, this is the thing that we never expected when we introduced Kiro to our pilot users. They transformed this backlog grooming days into Kiro spec design days, Kiro spec design sessions. So they used that time to refine the requirements. They started with Kiro. Instead of backlog grooming, they started with Kiro with their requirements and gave Kiro the prompt in a way that this is the format we create our features and user stories, and this is our model. We would like you to create accordingly. They started seeing those results. And those sessions, because Kiro can remember the context and it can automatically adjust based on your code base, the amount of time even to do the spec refinement is also getting shorter and shorter. And surprisingly, no one complained or petitioned to bring back those backlog grooming sessions. We'll take that win. So with the pilot, right, I'm not talking about scaling the Kiro. We didn't scale the Kiro. We're getting ready to scale the Kiro. with just the pilot users, right, we're able to deliver the first ever most intelligent developer portal, end-to-end, production ready, meeting all of our compliance and governance rules. So I'm sure many of you are familiar. Whenever there is a business group with the product owners and there is a technology counterparts, how much our handoff happens, how many our meetings we go through, our business product owners, they will create their mock-ups, the requirements, Word document, detailed Word documents, and God help us, some Excel sheets with all of the requirements, right? But still, even after all of this back and forth, there will be some gaps still whenever the end result and the end product is delivered. So what we wanted to try out was recently, we trained our business product owners how to use Kiro. These are the people who never coded a single line in their life. All they did was Word documents, mock-ups. So we trained them how to use Kiro. The end result, they were able to provide or generate working prototypes aligning with the roadmap, aligning with the new feature that they want. And they were able to easily hand off that working prototype with their technology counterparts who are easily, in hours actually, integrate with their working application. Again, I'm not making this up. These business product owners said that the prototype or the design usually takes us a quarter, one increment to get that. And we're able to complete it in a matter of days and weeks. It's not only about the time we are saving, it is also about fixing those gaps, right? We started to see that the gap between the technology team and the business product teams getting disappeared because now everyone started to see and talk everything in the same language. No more assumptions, no more imaginations. Product owners are able to give the working prototypes and technology counterparts are able to immediately visualize and integrate the actual application. And like I said, production-ready code is getting delivered every time. And I shared you what we delivered. At the same time, I would also like to share what our developers were saying, right? Highlighting here 3 quotes from the feedback that we got from our pilot users. One of the engineering leader, right, who said that I forgot my coding practice several years, but I gave it a try using Kiro. He said that now I can give tasks to Kiro and I can go back to my meetings. In the background, Kiro is able to continue to executing those tasks. And once I'm done with the meetings and I'm coming back and refining and reviewing the code that it generated. And one of the developers, she said that spec-driven development stopped me going circles with vibe coding. Anyone heard about vibe coding? Anyone? No? So it is I think it's the official word of the year for 2025, vibe coding, isn't it? A lot of prompting, iteration, prompting, screaming, a lot of tears. We think that there is a progress being made, but our commit history will tell the actual story, right? So using Kiro with the spec-driven development, what she shared was it is remembering the context. It is giving me the destination at the same time, the path to get to that destination. It is not building code out of vacuum. The code is getting generated based on the context. And one of the senior developers said that breaking down technical design into stories with full repo context. This is very important, right? Because there will be a lot of freedom in greenfield development. If we are starting from scratch, sky is the limit, blue skies, we can make a lot of assumptions, a lot of imagination, prototyping, all of that. But if we are implementing or doing a brownfield application, if you have a code that is written several years back and it is the most important application, it's very challenging to plan any changes. But with the help of Kiro, they are able to create the work that needs to be done, aligning with the context of the code. And 94% of the pilot participants reported 4 and greater than 4 out of 5, the feedback. IDEs are like rifles to the Marines, to the developers. There's so much attached. It is not a simple task asking developers to try out this new IDE. But yet, all of our pilot participants were, because of the trust we built, they were very open and flexible and used this and started giving this great feedback. And I also shared that QDeveloper, the success, right, that we achieved. And this is what the trust looks like. So we launched QDeveloper end of March and the first week of April. And in 6 months, we were able to achieve 1,948% growth. That's not a typo. That's a real percentage. And I really wish my stock portfolio gave me this kind of returns in 6 months. Because of the trust that we built, the developers are embracing any technology that we are building. And the QDeveloper laid that foundations. On those foundations, we're getting ready to scale Kiro across the enterprise. Of course, you need to measure any rollout, any technology enhancements that you're doing. Always, metrics are very important. So we created our own dashboard, which helped us to measure what is the user adoption is looking like, what is the engagement is looking like, at the same time, what is the QDeveloper impact, which is clearly showed us that we're able to produce more code in the less amount of time. And again, like I said, the developers, what they're saying was, primarily, it's coming down to they're seeing a fundamental shift in our ways of working. They're no longer bogged down or tied to the implementation details because they were able to give those implementation details to Kiro and let it work, and they are primarily focusing, and a lot of focus on architecture and design thinking. And also they're focusing now to get rid of technical debt. Right? Everyone's favorite word, isn't it? So they're taking advantage of Kiro and getting rid of technical debt. And a lot of use cases we implemented within this short span using pilot group. So the takeaway that I would like to share with you all is, from this pilot experience and from the adoption of QDeveloper with these agentic AI tools, developer tools, we are able to say yes more now. I know many of people leaders here, you might have read the book, saying no is very important. But no, these agentic tools are helping us to say yes more. Years worth of backlog, which got competed and deprioritized because of competing priorities, now we are able to say yes and start solving those problems. We are able to bridge the gap between our business counterparts and technology counterparts, and everyone is trying to now is able to see the same, speak the same language, and see the same outcome. Now the deliverables are no longer tied to the size of the team. They are no longer proportionate. Smaller teams are starting to deliver the biggest outcome with leveraging tools like Kiro. And what's next for Delta? Like I said, we're ready. We're getting ready to scale Kiro across our enterprise, and a lot of exciting announcements, Kiro agents that were announced. And we're going to integrate all of the Kiro agents into our developer workflows and lifecycle. See, with all this journey, one thing that our personal observation is, the companies in near future, like a decade or so, they're going to win not just with AI tools, but when these AI tools are woven together, starting from the build, design, deployment, from product owners all the way to production. Right? We need to focus on introducing AI across the product development lifecycle, which we also call as PDLC, because we are Delta, we love our acronyms. So Introducing AI tools and automation across entire product development lifecycle is very important. Q developer laid that foundation and helped to build the trust among our developer community. Now we are taking the advantage and rolling out Kiro for our future. Now I'm going to ask Sam to come and show some magic, how the Kiro is going to look like in the IDE.
Thanks, Kadir. It was really good to hear.
You're supposed to clap as boss is here.
Nice to hear a practical experience with the tool here. So I'm Sam. I'm going to show you a quick tour of Kiro here with a demo that I put together as a video because there's a lot to show. And it will go pretty quick here. And so there'll be some time lapse that I'll include. So Kiro is a full-featured IDE. So you'll see a lot of the stuff that you're kind of used to seeing in your IDE, but it's purpose-built for AI agent development. And as you open it up, you'll see the spec versus vibe kind of options here, which is kind of new. And I'll talk a little bit more about the spec version of this or features. We have some tools included in here to help you manage your context, like being able to load files if you want, grabbing output from your terminal as you're debugging, pointing to particular URLs if you need that. You can even include images so that if you have UI designs or sequence diagrams or something like that you want to include, you can add those. And you can select the different agents models you want, including the latest, like the Sonnet 4.5, we have Opus, and there's this option for auto mode. The auto mode will let Kiro automatically pick which model it's going to use, optimal for that. And it allows you to save a little bit on the credits as you're doing it that way. So it'll pick maybe a model that might be a little bit cheaper to use for the particular use case that it's going after. On this panel on the left over here, you'll see all the Kiro tools. And these are the things that are going to really help you with your project, manage the AI agents. Particularly, we'll start with this, the steering files component here. So steering files are a way to give rules and guidance to the AI. You can have prompts that you share amongst your teams that you might put in there, coding standards, those kinds of things. And it'll give Kiro a map of your code base as well. So you can click this button here, and Kiro will just automatically examine your project if you have a project that you've already built, and kind of creates these three like foundational steering files for it. One that's just a product file that describes what the product is supposed to do, the features and functions. It'll create a tech file that outlines what all the tech stack that you're using, and a structure file. So the structure gives it kind of a map of where files are, what kind of data you have, anything that the agent might need to know. So it doesn't have to load the whole entire code base all the time. It'll use this to navigate through your environment. It also has this feature with a file match pattern that you can give it. So this particular steering file I have here is for my UX guidelines, and I'm telling it to only load this when it's working on HTML or CSS files. And that way, this doesn't get into my context all the time, because too much context can confuse the AI agent here. These are just MD files, so you can source them with your project, you can share them. Of course, with Kiro, we can manage MCP, but if you go to Kiro.dev, you'll find that we have a directory of MCPs that we recommend that are easy to just, with a click, you get them added to your project. And we'll take that a step further with something that I think today is probably the first we've ever really talked about this yet, is powers. So Kiro powers is a little bit, they're like MCP on steroids, if you will. You get a little bit more than just an MCP when you're trying to, like, you have an MCP file, you have several of them, you're not sure when you need them, when you don't need them. You'll maybe want to augment that with some rules and steering files. But with powers, it combines those all into basically one. So you'll get, and we have some recommended ones here as well, but you can create your own. You'll see a bigger list in the actual released version that will come out. I think it actually was available this morning. But for this particular project, I'm going to build something that I'm going to use strands for. So I can just go to the directory, include the strands power, and now I've enabled Kiro with the information it needs in order to help me build this strands driven power. So I'm going to build a project here. I'm going to show you, this is Kiro-san. This is my fake retail site that I built for my demo. And I want to add a customer support agent to this using Bedrock and strands. So I'll just jump into Kiro here. I'll give it a prompt. In the past, I might have to be very, very careful about the prompt that I'm giving my AI agent, but here I'm going to do fairly simple because I'll get a chance to refine this and work through this. And I wish my play dude would disappear, but okay. So Kiro will go off, examine this prompt, and create a requirements document for me. This is an MD file. I'll be able to share this with my team, so a chance to review this with stakeholders, go back and forth a little bit and iterate on the requirements for this. And then if I need to make some updates to it, I can do that. And so I'm reviewing these requirements, and just kind of for the sake of demo, I'm noticing something missing. I want to make the window movable and resizable. So I could do this with just adding the text in there, but in this case, I'm going to ask Kiro to add this to the requirements so that I can then go ahead and when it builds it, the window will be movable and resizable. And when I'm happy with those requirements, I can just click this button here, and we're going to move on to the design phase. So Kiro is going to analyze what it saw there. It's kind of figuring out that I wanted to do something with strands. And so it's going to do a little research in the background, and here it activated the Kiro power. And what the cool thing about these powers, if you're using an MCP server, it might get loaded all the time, but here this is on when it's needed, it will load this power because it knows from what it's working on, that context, that it's going to do something with strands. It'll deliver this requirement design document for me. I'll get some diagrams. I'll get pseudocode in here. And then it does this other neat thing that's these correctness properties. So this is a set of properties that it derived from the requirements to kind of validate and tie everything together to help us get back to make sure that the requirements that we're building match what we asked it to. So it's another way for it to do some testing and reasoning to make sure that it's getting things right. And it's also really useful for you when you're reviewing the design to make sure that it covered everything. And I noticed that when I was covering this, that I would like a little bit more robust. I talked about input validation, but I wanted some more robust validation to make sure that there was no toxic content getting into my agent. So I went ahead and asked Kiro to add that. And then once I'm comfortable with the design, we move to the next phase, which is creating the tasks for the project. And it gave me this option for if I want those tasks to be all included, or do I want just some of them to be optional or not. And if I chose optional for making the demo a little quicker. But you can see these things that are gray are optional tasks, and I can turn them on if I want to. I can review this and decide, okay, some of these I want, and some of them I don't. For the demo that I'm going to do here too, I also have all these tasks, and I want to make sure that they get synced up in Jira. I know not everybody loves Jira, but it's a good way to illustrate what we're doing. It's a good way to illustrate the work that we're going through here. So, and also the power of MCP, which I think a lot of you are already familiar with, but within the IDE here, I can add this Jira MCP server, and we have OAuth authentication, so it logs into my credentials, and now I'm wired up to my Jira account, and I can go in here and just ask Kiro to take all those stories and tasks that it created in those files and create stories and tasks for me in Jira. So this is a spot where I definitely needed to speed up the video. It took a little bit, but we can go through, and it created 8 user stories and 19 subtasks for me, all in Jira. And so now I can track these. I can distribute this throughout my team if I wanted to. This is a pretty small example for this demo. But if you had a bigger project and you maybe wanted to parallelize some of this work throughout your team, you can. Because here you can see everything in Jira with the descriptions and the details and all that of what the project was doing. But I might want to sync this up a little bit with the work that I'm doing locally. So Kiro has agent hooks. So the agent hooks are a way for Kiro to respond to events that happen in your environment and then call the agent and take some action on your behalf. So for what I've done for the demo here is I'm going to set up a hook that will, if anything changes in my task file, to check that and then do the right thing to update my Jira for me. So I can describe this in natural language. I don't have like a whole bunch of configuration clickies that I have to do. And it figured out that it needs to monitor the task.md file. It kind of broke down to make sure that I'm clear. I can iterate back and forth with it about what I want. And I want it to, like, if I mark a task done, check to see, is that the last task in the story? Can I mark the story done? And then it kind of updated and kept track of that for me in my task file. And now that I'm ready to get working, these MD files are embedded in Kiro in a way that I can just click on that little button there that says start the task. Gives me a little indicator that tells me the progress of the task. I can watch it in the chat dialog and see what it's doing. If it needs permissions for something, it might ask me. I probably noticed there was a little red there. It kind of ran into an error, but it figured it out and moved on and kind of built that first task and gave me a summary of what it did. Now, as I mentioned, there's 19 tasks in here, and I don't want to handhold them all. I want to go get coffee. I just told it to go ahead and power through the rest of them, and I did. I went and got a coffee and came back about 15, 20 minutes later, and here we go. We got all our tasks completed. With a summary, a wrap-up of them. It went to Jira. It updated the status of those. And just for fun, I'm like, let me check the burn down chart. There isn't granularity in Jira that can show you what actually happened, because I got all those tasks done in less than an hour, and that's the smallest granularity in their burn down chart. But I can go in and just look in my terminal here and kind of show you that we can see the code here. It added initializing the Bedrock agent, added the agent for us. 2,245 lines of code and over 1,800 lines of just documentation. So it also updated all my docs for me. And here's my app. And I got a new button on my app. I can ask it questions about my catalog. So it knows about the API for my catalog and is able to have searched that and found what I had. But it's not perfect. The font is not in a color that I can really read here. It did a fairly decent job picking up my styles, but I don't think we had anything in there for this particular issue. But let's just go back into Kiro and see what we can do to fix it. And this is where, we can just vibe code this one here. We can click the vibe code button. I'll describe the problem that I ran into. Also, the output from the LLM there at the end, that big block was just a big block of text, but it's markdown. So I'm asking it, can you please format the markdown so that we can get bullets and headers and all that kind of stuff? So it runs off and does that for me. We can just refresh the app here real quick and see what it did. I don't even have to really load it. And there we go. Now I can read it. I got bullets and headers, and it looks pretty good. But you probably noticed I was talking over it. It was very slow. That was not right. But that gives me a chance to show you the CLI. The CLI is, just in the terminal. There's a ton of tools in it. It's a little bit more handheld, manual kind of environment if you want to be a little bit more interactive and involved. Different tools for different folks. I like driving a stick shift. So for me, this is really the world I like to be in. I use this daily for pretty much everything I do. You can see the list of features and a lot of experimental stuff that's coming out. If you're using this, you should be checking the release notes pretty much every other day or so. They're using Kiro to build Kiro, so it's just fast. My job is to describe Kiro to you, and I'm learning things from people because it's just so fast that it's coming out. One of the features is this ability to do agents, and you can kind of bundle MCP files and steering files and stuff like that, and you can switch those back and forth depending on what you're working on. So maybe you can say, like, you can bounce back and forth. We're doing some kind of Agent Core related stuff here, so I'm using my Agent Core. And I told it what I was experiencing, and it noticed that we didn't use the streaming interface that we're blocking on the calls from Bedrock. So it went ahead and is making the update. It's asking me if I want them, showing me the coding changes that it's about to do. And I just went ahead and approved them for the sake of this. And then we'll come back in here, and I'm going to ask it a question again about my catalog, if it can go out there. And you can see this time it was a whole lot faster. So that's a lot of stuff. I went through a lot really quick, and I could talk about this all day. There's a lot of really cool features within Kiro that you'll see if you play with it and experiment with it. Just neat little stuff like being able to automatically generate your comments for a commit. You click the button here, it knows what the context is, what the chat has been, and can create that message for you. We've recently added checkpointing as well, so that if the agent just did something that you kind of don't like and want to go back, you can revert that checkpoint and take it back. And things, like I said, things are coming out pretty much on a daily basis. So to get a real deep dive into this, there's some other sessions at reInvent that I would recommend. Just go find those, come see us at the kiosk. But more importantly, download it, play with it, let me know what you think. And I'm going to give this back to Rory here. She's going to close it out with some more information on how you can learn more about Kiro and get started. Awesome. Thanks.
How do I switch it back to presenter mode? This one? Oh, nice. All right, so getting started with Kiro is pretty darn easy as far as, downloading it. There was an Easter egg in that demo that, I don't know if you are paying attention, but it was Kiro Powers. Kiro Powers is available today. It was an embargoed session, so if you want to learn more about Kiro Powers, I would recommend going to Nikhil's session, DVT209, tomorrow to learn more how to get, what did you call it, MCP? Servers on steroids? Yeah, well, I don't think that's our official marketing line, but it is a way that we can accelerate the sort of connective tissue, especially with other AWS services like Agent Core. So thank you very much for attending this session. We would love to hear more about what you like, what you don't like, because like I said, our development cycle has been greatly disrupted. Take Kiro Powers. I don't think we had anything planned for Kiro Powers a month ago, and we went from inception all the way into production to launching it at reInvent in under 4 weeks, and that's actually pretty slow for us now. So these technologies are massively disruptive, not only to our own internal processes, but I hope they get to disrupt your processes as well and give you the opportunity to do more faster and put more human in your projects. Thank you.